They tell you Thomas Edison changed the world. They put his face in the textbooks. They built statues. They named streets after him. And for over 100 years, most people accepted that story without blinking. But here is what they left out. There was a black man in the room. Not standing in the corner, not sweeping the floor. He was at the drafting table, solving the problems Edison could not solve alone, making the inventions work, making them last, making them real, and then watching his name get swallowed by history. That man was Lewis Howard Latimer, and the story of how they erased him is the story of how this country has always handled black genius. Not with a dramatic theft, not with one villain twirling a mustache, just a quiet, structural decision to make the black man invisible while putting the white man on a pedestal. By the end of this, you are going to understand exactly how that worked and why they needed it to stay buried. Before we even get to the light bulb, we have to go back to where Lewis Latimer came from, because his whole life was built on a foundation of resistance that most people never hear about. His father, George Latimer, was born into slavery in Norfolk, Virginia in 1819. In October of 1842, George and his wife Rebecca did something that took everything they had. They ran. They used underground railroad networks to escape to Boston, Massachusetts. Rebecca was pregnant when they fled. She wanted her children born free. That was the fire this family carried. But freedom was not waiting for them with open arms. George Latimer was arrested almost immediately after arriving in Boston. The slaveholder who claimed ownership over him demanded he be returned south, and for a moment, it looked like George would be dragged back into chains. Then something happened. Abolitionists caught the case. Frederick Douglass himself spoke at meetings demanding George's freedom. The city of Boston erupted. Tens of thousands of people signed petitions. Eventually, abolitionists raised $400 to purchase George's freedom from the man who claimed to own him. $400 for a human being. Let that sit with you. But the story did not end there. The George Latimer case became a national flashpoint. It gave abolitionists the political power to push through the 1843 Massachusetts Personal Liberty Act, known as the Latimer Law, which blocked Massachusetts officials from helping to detain people fleeing slavery. George Latimer's fight created law. His suffering created protection for thousands of others. And 4 years after that victory, on September 4, 1848, his son Lewis Howard Latimer was born in Chelsea, Massachusetts. Born free, born into a legacy of resistance, and born into a country that was still going to make him fight for every inch. Now here is where that story of resistance becomes something else entirely. Something that should have made Lewis Latimer one of the most celebrated names in American history. Because what this man did, starting from nothing, with no formal education, no connections, and in a country that did not want him to succeed, is almost impossible to believe. In 1864, at 16 years old, Lewis Latimer enlisted in the Union Navy. He served, he fought, he got his honorable discharge on July 3, 1865. Then he walked into a patent law firm in Boston called Crosby, Halstead & Gould and talked his way into a job as an office boy. $3 a week, that was it. But Lewis Latimer was watching. He noticed the draftsman making technical drawings for patent applications. He got himself books on mechanical drawing. He bought his own instruments. His diary says he would look over the draftsman's shoulders to see exactly how they used their tools. He studied at night. He practiced until his hands knew what his eyes could see. And then he walked up to his boss and showed him what he could do. By 1872, Lewis Latimer was the head draftsman at that firm, making $20 a week, in a country that did not want him in the building at all. Hold that thought for a second, because this next part is where it gets serious. Hey family, real talk. YouTube has shut down channels for telling exactly these kinds of stories, so I need you to find us off this platform. Go to blackstories-untold.com, join our mailing list, and make sure we stay connected no matter what they do. Now, back to what happened. Picture this. It is late at night in Boston. The year is 1876. A Scottish immigrant named Alexander Graham Bell is running a school for the deaf during the day, and he has this idea for a device that can carry a human voice through wire. He is excited. He is racing because he knows someone else is working on the same idea, and the U.S. Patent Office will only recognize one winner. Bell hires Crosby, Halstead, and Gould to handle his paperwork, and that means he is sitting down late at night, after 9 in the evening, after his last class, describing this invention to Lewis Latimer. Latimer himself later recalled those late-night sessions, saying he had to stay at the office past 9 o'clock when Bell was finally free from teaching, just to get his instructions on how to make the drawings for the telephone patent. Latimer drew it, every technical line, every precise measurement, the drawings that would go to the United States Patent Office and secure the rights to the telephone. Both Bell's application and a competing application from inventor Elisha Gray were filed on the same day, February 14, 1876, the same day. Both men racing to the same office. Bell's application was entered as the 5th item processed that day. Gray's was the 39th. Historians have debated for 150 years about exactly who arrived first and what that truly meant under the patent law of the time. What is not in dispute is this: Bell got the patent, March 7, 1876. U.S. Patent 174,465. The telephone. And the drawings that helped secure it were made by a black man named Lewis Latimer, working after 9 o'clock at night because that was the only time a white man could find for him. Alexander Graham Bell became a legend. His name is in every history book. Lewis Latimer got to go home and start over. And what he built next, that is where the real story lives. Because the full picture is even bigger than most people know. By 1879, Latimer had moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut. He was hired as assistant manager and draftsman at U.S. Electric Lighting Company, run by a man named Hiram Maxim. Now understand who Maxim was. He was Thomas Edison's fiercest commercial rival in the electric lighting business. The race to light up America was on, and both men had a serious problem. Carbon filaments, the thin threads inside electric bulbs that glowed when electricity hit them, kept breaking during production. The manufacturing process was destroying them before they could even be used. That made mass production nearly impossible. That kept the light bulb expensive. That kept it out of ordinary people's homes. Lewis Latimer solved it. He figured out that if you wrap the carbon filament blanks inside a cardboard envelope during the carbonization process, they stopped breaking. That single method changed everything about how filaments could be made. On September 13, 1881, Latimer and his co-inventor, Joseph V. Nichols, received U.S. Patent 247,097 for a new method of attaching carbon filaments to the conducting wires inside an electric lamp. Then, on January 17, 1882, Latimer received his own patent, U.S. Patent 252,386, for his process of manufacturing carbons, his method, his name, on the document. Here is where the system shows its teeth. Hiram Maxim, as Latimer's employer, held the legal right to his employees' inventions. That was standard practice. That was the law. So the first patent, the one that used Latimer's filament process, became the Maxim lamp, not the Latimer lamp. Maxim's name on the product, Maxim's name in the press, Maxim's profit from the sales. And this is where it gets darker. Historian Rayvon Fouché, author of Black Inventors in the Age of Segregation, noted that a filament treated with Maxim's process, meaning Latimer's process, burned longer than the one in an Edison lamp at the time. Let that register. The man erased from history made a better product than the man who became a legend. Maxim was not even the inventor, Latimer was. But the law said Maxim owned it, so Maxim got the credit. What happened next is the part that tells you everything about who Lewis Latimer was. He did not quit. He went back to the drawing board, literally, and developed a second version of his manufacturing process, one he could patent in his own name. That became U.S. Patent 252,386, a bulb that used his process, credit that no employer could strip away. And then, in 1882, Maxim sent Latimer to London to set up factories producing Maxim lights. Lewis Latimer spent 9 months teaching an entire workforce the full process, including glass blowing, to get a British factory operational. He built an industry from scratch on foreign soil. And this is where everything connects. In 1884, Latimer was recruited by the Edison Electric Light Company in New York. Thomas Edison, the man building an empire, brought in Lewis Latimer as a draftsman and expert witness in patent litigation. Latimer protected Edison's patents in court. He translated technical documents from French and German to help Edison fight off European competitors. He supervised the installation of public electric lights across New York. Philadelphia, Montreal, and London. He was inside the machine. He was holding it together. And in 1890, at Thomas Edison's own encouragement, Lewis Latimer wrote the first book ever published on electric lighting, Incandescent Electric Lighting, a practical description of the Edison system. Latimer literally wrote the textbook, the definitive guide to the technology that was changing the world. His knowledge, his words, his expertise. Edison's name is on the cover of history. Latimer wrote the instruction manual. On February 11, 1918, the Edison pioneers were formally organized. This was the elite circle, 28 charter members selected because they had directly shaped the electrical age, the men who built it, the men who defended it, the men who were trusted with its future. Lewis Howard Latimer was one of those 28. He was the only black man in the group, the only one. William Meadowcroft, the Edison pioneer's own historian and Edison's longtime private secretary, wrote about Latimer directly. He called him broad-minded, versatile, intellectual, cultural, a linguist, a devoted husband and father, and said his presence would be missed from their gatherings. The man who helped erase Latimer's public legacy still privately acknowledged who he was. And this is the grand truth this story forces you to face. Lewis Latimer's erasure was not an accident. It was not a mistake. But it also was not a single dramatic conspiracy. It was something more dangerous than that. It was the default. The system assigned credit to the man at the top. It assigned ownership to the employer. It assigned fame to the brand name. And when every man at the top was white, every default decision buried the black man underneath. No one had to plan it. No one had to meet in secret. They just had to do what the system rewarded. Bell got the monument. Maxim got the lamp. Edison got the myth. And Lewis Latimer, the man whose drawing secured the telephone, whose process made the light bulb manufacturable, who wrote the first book on electric lighting, who protected Edison's patents in court across 2 continents, got a Wikipedia page and a small museum in Queens that most people in this country have never heard of. He died on December 11, 1928, in Flushing, New York. The world he helped build was glowing all around him. His granddaughter, Winifred Latimer Norman, would later explain why most accounts of the light bulb never mention her grandfather. 2 reasons, she said: the color of his skin and the lot of the salaried researcher. That is it. That is the whole system explained in 2 lines by a woman who loved a man the world forgot. He was not inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame until 2006, 78 years after his death. Lewis Latimer was the son of a man who sued his way to freedom. He was a self-taught genius in a country that denied him education. He was the hidden hand behind the telephone and the practical light bulb. He was one of the 28 men who built the electrical age. He was brilliant enough to be in every room, and he was black enough to be written out of every headline. The system did not need to be cruel. It just needed to be consistent. And it was, for over 100 years. Now you know. Do not let them put this back in the dark. This was Black Stories Untold. And as always, thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, click the video on your screen now.